starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Welcome back to the chat with Norman Lee and Colin Burnett. Let's get this thing rolling, brother. What do you say?
I'm ready. How about yourself, man? Had a great morning so far, and ready to talk some more fishing. We've been talking fishing all morning.
Man, this has been great. It's an exciting day for us, isn't it?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man.
So let's let a few people get on before we really kind of get going. If you are on here, message or put in the comments that you're here so we can see you, and we will chit chat back and forth. That's what this little what do you call this little episode that we've been starting. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to interact with our viewers.
Yeah, this is an interactive chat session.
Exactly. So, with that being said, remember hit the like button. Smash it. If you're on Facebook, just smash it as many times as possible until your finger gets tired. Or if you're on YouTube, just hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. So we'll wait a few minutes. We got a couple people on. So we bared the cold this morning, didn't we?
Yeah, it was cold. I looked like the abominable snowman. Had probably about 15 long sleeve tees on under my 3 hoodies and 2 jackets.
Yeah.
The skinny boy needs to stay warm.
Yeah. You need to put some weight on.
It doesn't take as much for that cold air to get to my bones than it does yours. You have a little bit of padding.
Yeah. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, there you go.
So all right, brother. We got a few people on here.
We can go ahead and start rocking and rolling this thing, right?
Yeah. Let's see. We got Lori from Two Chicks in a Boat.
What is going on, Lori?
On here. She said, I guess she's talking about hitting the like and stuff like that. She said, I would if I wasn't sitting in a training at the airport. So, but we also have Todd Godwin.
Man,
what's up?
How you doing, brother?
Appreciate you watching.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about today, brother.
Yeah, man. Cold morning.
Very cold. I think when we actually hit the water, I think it was 36, 37.
I don't know what the air temperature said, but I had ice on my carpet and on my windshield of the truck when we took off this morning. Anytime I see ice, that's too cold for me.
Yeah, that's true. So, we went to Nickajack today, and we had last night. We had a full moon, and so we knew that the bite typically when the full moon, the bite is a little slower. So we knew that was going to be the case, and so we knew that was going to have to change up a little bit what was done. Also, that water level on Nickajack was a foot higher than Summer Pool. So with all that, we knew what the bass was going to do when the water level goes up. They're going to move up. So we found that what we caught that everything was close. So anything kind of structure, anything like that, that's where we was getting our hits off the ripraps, but it was close to the bank.
Yeah, most of the bites actually came. I mean, you almost had to hit the bank and drag it down into the water. I mean, they were right pushed right up against it.
Right. Todd said there's a lot of. Did that fix it, Todd? Let's see. Hopefully that fixed. I'm wondering if it was picking up my. Okay. Thank you. He said that's a lot better.
Right.
I think what it is I tried putting. We cannot hear anything going on unless we have headphones on, and the only headphones that I brought actually has a mic on it, so I'm thinking it's picking up that extra mic. So, thanks for letting us know, Todd. So again, the water was a foot above summer level. We had it was a little bit of a tough day at first.
Yeah.
I started out throwing, what did I start out? A lipless crankbait, and in a crawl color, and I may have gotten one or two hits off of that.
I think you got at least one.
I know I got one.
They were just almost like they were running into it and lipping it, but not really wanting to eat it.
Exactly. It was a subtle bite today. Nothing was a hard hit. But we knew, and the water was pretty stained.
Yeah.
More stained than what it typically is, because typically Chickamauga and Nickajack typically has like a brownish greenish color.
Yeah, they had every gate open on the spillway coming from Chickamauga, so the water was rushing today.
Yeah, it was.
They had every floodgate open that they could have.
I think we were going down. It seemed like we was going down the river even without your trolling motor. That we was moving about 8 to 10 mile an hour down the river.
Yeah, that drift was. I mean, you couldn't troll against it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
All the way in high, you couldn't go against it. It was pushing pretty good.
Yeah. So we again, if you're on Facebook and stuff like that, whatever, we want to chat with y'all. So if you can write your comments in, and we will answer your comments. If you have a question for us, we will answer them. So, but we today we seen something interesting at the boat ramp. Pretty much a boat ramp fail. Oh man, what's up, Bruce? Oh, Bruce Anderson.
What's going on, Bruce?
Bruce is the owner of Deep South Vinyl. He made our logo for our podcast, and he made us a sign and also some tumblers. So,
yeah.
So when hopefully we're going to be getting that here pretty soon. He said it's finally made.
Yeah.
So thank you, Bruce. We really appreciate it. So, but talking about the boat ramps, we pulled up, and there was a pontoon boat that was at the dock. There was a dude on the pontoon boat. He did not look like he knew exactly what he was doing.
He didn't know too much what he was doing.
And we couldn't, at first we thought he was trying to tie the boat up, but then the boat started floating down the river. But there was an SUV. Looking at it at first, it just looked like the SUV
sunk it.
was in the water. I mean, the whole car was in the water. I mean, the water was almost up to the bottom of the doors. And the dude was trying to there was a lady in the car. The dude was trying to put the boat on the trailer. And
there's nothing for the boat to float on.
There was nothing for the boat. And so after probably about 10, 15 minutes of them fighting, trying to put the trailer on, we were fixing to head down there to tell them, hey, you need to pull the trailer up so there's something for the boat to rest on. Well, the lady got mad, I guess, and she just took off. But it was funny, so. But yeah, I think that's our first boat ramp fails for the year, though.
Well, I tell you what, it's hard enough when you have rushing water like that for somebody that knows a little bit about what they're doing to load a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you got that rushing water, it's always going to play against you. You really have to judge the water when you're trying to load your boat, and when you really don't know what you're doing, it just adds to that improbability of doing it when you really don't know how to do it. Plus, a pontoon boat
Exactly.
that catches a lot more side current than a bass boat does too. So
right,
it's more or less of a stock wanting to push down the.
Well, it's probably at least 5 to 8 feet longer than what a bass boat is, and it's just sitting on top of the water, where at least the bass boat is down in the water.
Yeah, and the current almost goes by a bass boat, even broadsides, more streamlined, where when it hits the side of a pontoon boat, it's just pushing like it's pushing into a square board.
Exactly. Hey, and we also got ZK Customs. What's up, Zach?
What's going on, man?
And I heard you tore them up this weekend. So congratulations, brother. So, yeah, Zach knows about that current on Nick and Jack.
Yep.
So, he says he's working. He's working, but he's watching this. So, I love it. So, but yeah, we ended up, I threw that lipless crankbait. I threw it for probably about 30, 35 minutes. Switched over to a swim bait, like a rib swim bait. Yeah, Zach says the current is dangerous if you don't know how to control your boat.
Yep.
That is very true. And I think if that dude would have had a smaller boat, if he would have been in like a little John boat or something like that, he would have been in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
If it wasn't for that pontoon, he would have been messed up. But that lady didn't want to stick around for it.
Did she completely leave the boat ramp area and leaving there?
No, she just pulled out.
I think she pulled out to let us go because I think she's got frustrated that she was holding us up too.
But yeah, she took off. She didn't. But we didn't see them. So, or see them again after we got in the water. The dude was away from us, so we really couldn't say nothing to him about it.
I think we did say something to her. She actually walked back down on the dock, and we kind of gave her a little bit of a helpful hint to pull the car up a little bit so the trailer's a little bit further out, so the pontoons could at least rest on the runners. So,
but we'll go. I swapped over to a swim bait with a belly weight that actually was it's not the 3.0s, it's the next one up from the 3.0 Sun Drop from Driftwood. It's the ribbed swim bait, and the very first cast I had one yank on the other end of the line, and I was like, heck yeah, I figured it out. And then, got quite a few hits on that swim bait. But they were wanting it brutally slow, just slow enough that tail is still just barely kind of moving. It was brutal.
Yeah.
But my dad, I think he threw one of our micro jigs that we make. He threw it pretty much all day long, and so he caught quite a few. You need to go other way. Mm-hmm. Go that way with it. Oh, they can see it. Okay, yeah. I see it there. There you go.
That's one of the ones we make. And I actually have, your dad didn't have it tipped with that. I actually have the bruiser bait McMenno on the back side of it.
Yeah, he had it tipped with oh crap, the Z-Man not copper truce. Yeah, copper truce.
You're right.
That's what he had it with. Tony Clark, what's up, brother? Glad to have you on here, man.
What's going on, Tony?
And so we tried to stay, we could not get out of the current on Nickajack. If you know Nickajack, you really cannot get out of the current if you're staying on the main river. If you go back into some little run-ins with the creeks, I mean, you can. We did try that. Actually, caught one back up in the creeks, but we had better success on the main river, pushed up against the bank because the water was, again, is a foot high, higher than summer pools. So that's how we caught 90% of our fish. Well, even yours even came off close, didn't it?
Yeah.
So so everything that we caught then was coming up that was in the bushes, was caught up in the bushes from where the water has come up into the bushes. Also, we got Dustin Rogers and Brian Hawkins. What's up, guys?
What's up, man? How you guys doing?
Brian, why aren't you driving a McKee truck? Brian is actually my brother-in-law's dad. He also works at McKee with me. He's been working there a few years longer than I have, like 25.
It's a long time.
But yeah, I get to see him ever so often when he's fueling up. Mainly is when I see him. So, but yeah, what was your take on today, though, Norman? About
it was a very, very tough bite, of course, with the conditions you have, and especially when when the water's moving that rapidly, I don't care how big. I mean, we have a pretty good-sized thrust trolling on our boat, but it's hard you just really got to go with it. And, cast out in front, especially when you're fishing the bank. Cast out in front and just kind of let bounce your bait, work your bait until the boat gets past it, and then reel in and do it all over again. Yeah. But, I mean, the hits I've had, it seemed like they were just coming up. They didn't really want to eat it. They were just kind of reacting to it, but they'd almost like, when you'd feel the bite, they wouldn't hang on to it. They'd almost like mouth it and then turn it loose right away. It was almost like, they were reacting to the bait on the bottom, bouncing along, but once they just reacted to it, they really didn't want to eat it. And that's kind of common for what we have going on. I think the water temperature was right at 46, or when we got started this morning, it was 46.7. And I think when we came off the water, it was 47.1.
Yeah, so it was a little bit, and as it gets hotter, what do you know, Jeff Kyle? I worked with old Jeff when at Coca-Cola for many years. So, yeah, with the water conditions and stuff, with it being stained, and which right now, I really love throwing, like, especially if I'm throwing a lipless crankbait. I love throwing the Fritz side right now. Throwing it around some riprap and some downfalls, which I didn't try this today. I don't think I even had one in the boat, but throwing a red chatterbait with a red trailer on it. So because it's about that time for the crawl.
Yeah, red or orange is going to come into play here very shortly.
Yep, exactly. We haven't But we hadn't been on Nickajack that long, or in a little bit.
No, we haven't been on Nickajack. It's been probably about a month since we've actually been on that particular body of water.
Yeah.
But you know, as fast as the current was flowing, the visibility was poor. I mean, with that much moving water, and they probably had current that stiff for a few days. I would think the rate that was flowing today, it this wasn't probably the first day it was flowing like that. So
No.
it had very poor visibility.
Yeah.
And that mixed with how really you want to fish slow, but it's almost impossible to fish slow because you know the boat's drifting so fast.
Right.
So, and you almost had to pull it in front of them. I mean, they couldn't see. I guarantee they couldn't see on the bottom because of what the visibility was with how fast. I mean, it was all just churned up from the movement of the water I guess they've had out there for the past couple days.
And so in fishing like that, like if you're just dragging the bottom, Norman, tell us kind of like even, or if you're fishing just a river system, you know, and you've got some good current, and you're wanting to drag a bait on the bottom, how are you wanting to be like? Do you want the bait coming from upstream, or you wanting to kind of bring it from downstream up, or how?
Well, when you got current, if you take a drift with the current, that's really perfect for dragging a bait because anytime you have moving water, the fish or the bass looks for ambush points on the bottom, and when you have a current driven system, the fish are going to set up facing the direction that the water's flowing from. And the reason they do that is there's so much rocks and boulders, and there's big chunks of stuff down there, and what they will do is they will set up behind something where the water creates a break on the bottom where it flows around a rock or a boulder.
Like a little eddy.
Yeah, exactly, like an eddy, but on the bottom. And the fish will actually use that as an ambush point. So they will set up facing the direction of the current, wait for their food to flow by, and that way the food doesn't see it, doesn't have time to react. They catch them before they know it. And when you're dragging baits with the current, you basically just find an area that has fish, that has the type of structure that's holding the fish. You could take a drift and just drift that cover and just kind of wait to pull the baits by and sometimes when the water's flowing that fast, you really have no choice but to just take a drift with it because it's hard to control. I mean, you could get uptight like we were today and still be able to control the trolling motor and fish it, but you're fishing fast, trying to hit particular cover, pieces of cover on the bank, which makes it difficult because you're going by so fast. You pitch it into a piece of cover, and before you know it, that piece of cover is behind the boat. Yeah. So sometimes when the water's moving that fast, it's almost, as long as there's still fish setting up in the current a little bit deeper, sometimes that's really your only option. Yeah. And that's a good way to do it. But now if the current's not so stiff and you're actually wanting to bait cast or cast a bank, you always want to fish against the direction the current's flowing because it's going to work kind of the same, as if you're drifting with the current. You want to be pulling the bait back to the boat, basically with the current, because the fish are going to be setting up facing the current. So you want to fish against the current when you're bait casting and going along a bank, but going the other direction.
Yep. Now, can you take drifts on a lake, like let's say, which we know like Chickamauga is a current-based lake anyways, but like let's say down in Florida, do you take drifts down in Florida on Placid?
Oh yeah. When you're fishing deeper water, it's all about finding the strike. Here's the thing with fishing deep water. Very, very seldom I will go out and actually try to locate fish or bass. Typically, the first thing I'll look for is pods of bait. Yeah. Usually, if you find bait fish, there's going to be bass in the area. I mean, very seldom you're not going to have bass if you find bait. So find the pods of bait, and the pods of bait's easier to find when you're kind of cruising around with your outboard. You just cruise around just so you're enough to keep the boat on plane, but the pods of bait are easier to find because they're going to stick out pretty big. Yeah. Where it's so much easier to find than one or two fish down there. But once you find the pods of bait, and yeah, just take yourself drifts over, whether it be shell bed or whatever you're fishing, and that's actually a very good way of catching big fish doing that, where you're just taking drifts. That way, when you do that, as long as you know fish are below you, the bait's always going to be in the strike zone. Instead of having to kind of work the bait and reel it in, cast it, you're wasting all that time when the bait's out of the water. As long as you could take a drift where you got fish that's down there, your bait's always going to be in the strike zone doing that.
Yep. And so with that being said, tell me, Norman, what is your favorite bait?
All right. Well, you're gonna have to break that down in a couple of different. I'm gonna have to use a couple of different baits, man, because back in Florida, where I grew up fishing all my life, guided 15, 16 years down there, is totally different than when you come up here. Different kind of baits, different, type of water, completely different. Down in Florida, and it depends. Everybody that fishes Florida always talks about, the most common lakes are going to be your shallow lakes. That's what everybody knows about. Everybody fishes shallow, tight, bowl-shaped lakes that are 5-6 foot. A lot of them's 5-6 foot maximum depth.
Right.
But there is some lakes down there that are deep water lakes. Now, I guided on Placid June for 15 years, and I've done a lot of Carolina rigging. And there's a lot of shell beds, a lot of hydrilla. But my favorite bait to throw when I'm Carolina rigging deeper water in Florida is, this is a bruiser bait. I got to kind of hold it like that so it'll all fit in the screen. This is a 14.25 inch. Bruiser bait calls them Dub Big Nasty. Now this particular one is their V1. It's their original. It is their original Big Nasty, which is the V1. Okay. Now they actually have it's been out for about a year and a half, 2 years now, but they have what they call the V2, which is a little bit different design, and they have that in a 14 inch, and now they have it in a 10 inch as well. But the V2 actually has ribs going down the tail, which actually helps displace more water, gets more displacement with the water as it goes through. Plus, it's going to have a better tail action and move more water. Now, one of the things I like about the Big Nasty, the Big Nasty was actually originally designed to be used like down in the Everglades. You get a lot of eels, you get a lot of snakes, and one of the forages for bass down south is eels and snakes. There's a lot of them down there, especially down around the Everglades. It was originally designed down there. Big baits. They've been using big 14, 16 inch baits down in the Everglades for years, dating back to the early 80s, as far as back as I could remember them using big baits. But it was originally designed. Now, one of the things with the Big Nasty now is a versatile bait. When they first came up with the Big Nasty, I don't think bruiser bait really had, the way I fish it on a Carolina rig, I don't think they really had or had that in their intentions when they built it.
I didn't think they did. I wouldn't think that they had that in mind.
No, they didn't have this in mind when they originally built it. They actually originally built it to actually work it as a snake or an eel. But the cool thing about the Big Nasty is that it is a very versatile bait. Of course, I like to throw them on a Carolina rig. Typically, I'll throw like a 3/4 ounce flat-out tungsten weight and I do it a little bit different. I throw a 7-foot leader. You get that bait that much further back behind the weight. And I do find that it creates like 7-2 on your bite scale. If you use a longer leader that sets that bait further back from the weight, you're going to actually improve your bite ratio. But you could use it with a nose weight. You could use it weightless. You could flip it. But again, my favorite way to throw it is a Carolina rig.
Okay. We also got Aaron Vincent just got on. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Aaron?
Man, it was great meeting you yesterday or last night. Enjoyed chit-chatting with you. We definitely need to get out on the water together. It'd be awesome.
Well, let me continue real quick. I got one more now. If I'm fishing shallow, Of course, I do a lot of flipping. My bread and butter, especially when I used to fish tournaments a lot. If it was a flipping lake and the flipping bite was on, my bread and butter is flipping. That's what I'm going to go to if you're catching if the flipping bite's going. But this is the 6-inch big stick, and it's also a bruiser bait. It's also a bruiser bait product, but the 6-inch big stick, and I've won a lot of money down in Florida on this bait flipping it. But what I like about this as far as the flipping it is that you don't see a lot of people flipping that type of bait, which is just a do nothing bait. Most people call them because there's no tail on it. It's just pointed at the nose and pointed at the tail. But the one thing I like about flipping that bait is there's no appendages. When you're flipping heavier cover, like heavier bulrush, heavier cattails, heavier pads, there's no appendages on it that actually gets wrapped up. If you flip a ribbon tail worm, for example, it's going to have that tail, and a lot of times when you flip it down, the tail's going to want to wrap up around the stuff you're flipping. So this slithers down a lot easier when you're flipping it in heavier cover. But I'm going to tell you one more thing with this. What separates this bait by bruiser from a lot, every company out there today is doing that style bait. Okay, and I call them a Senko style bait. Most every company does it. But what separates this bait from all the rest is everybody today is trying to make these baits as soft as they can.
Yeah.
Because the more soft the bait feels, the more pliable it feels, the more real it feels to the fish. When the fish eats it, the longer it's going to hang on to it before it wants to spit it out.
Yep.
Okay, but most of them's trying to build them so soft. But this bait here, they actually made it soft, but it's still pliable. It's still very tough, but it still has that soft feel. So when the fish eats it, they're not going to spit it as quick. But you could use it. I've caught as many as like 6 or 7 fish on one bait because it's just not going to rip apart.
Right.
And some of them out there like that, you flip it into the bushes and they rip apart after 7 or 8 flips back into bushes.
Well, Aaron said that that works great on City Lake, that Lafayette City Lake that I was telling you about.
Really? Awesome, man.
So, Willie Hammonds, what's up, brother? I bowled with Willie Hammonds for years. I hope you're doing well, brother. So, also, another thing that I like about that bruiser bait 6-inch big stick is, like, if I'm wacky rigging, oh man, we also got Roy Davis. What's up, bro?
What's up, Roy? How you doing, man?
Old Roy is my brother-in-law's best friend that we all have become pretty good friends. And Roy, can you tell us in the comments, and we'll let everybody know. Roy does every year a St. Jude's car show. All proceeds, everything goes to St. Jude's. So we want to be able to, and as it gets closer time, we'll definitely keep everybody up to date because we want everybody to participate in that. But Roy, if you can put the date down for us, I'd appreciate it.
Also, I might add too, while we're talking about what our favorite baits are, if you want to kind of chime in, if you don't mind sharing, or if it's something that you don't mind putting across, don't do it if you don't feel like you don't want to. But if you want to let us know what you like to throw, go ahead and comment in on that.
But again, like what I was saying before, I got caught up with people that were coming in that I have not talked to in a long time, like Willie. But the 6-inch big stick, a lot of people go, like when they're wacky rigging. Oh man, here we go. Dennis Crenshaw, brother.
There it is.
What's up, brother? Let me finish this and we'll say hey. But a lot of people go with the Senko. They'll go with the smaller Senko than that 6-inch while they're wacky rigging.
Mm-hmm.
Summertime, I like going to that 6-inch, the big stick, and throwing it as a wacky rig. And so I've seen that it gets me maybe not as many hits as if I go smaller with it, but I get a better bite out of it, as in bigger fish.
Yeah, and they also have the 5-inch stick worm, which is the same style worm, only it's a 5-inch.
Right.
Which, if you needed to downsize to the 5-inch, but they're well balanced too. When you do work rig and wacky, they're a very balanced bait.
Yeah, and it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dennis Crenshaw says better late than never. Hey, we don't care when you come on,
No,
Dennis.
man.
We love it anyways, brother. Dennis Crenshaw is very good friends of Norman and myself, and he is a guide down on Lake Placid, and his guide service is what, Norman?
Lake Placid Freshwater Charter and Guide.
Heck yeah.
He's a crappie guide, and I, from personal experience, I've been out with him a couple times. He is top notch.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a crappie guy and you're down in South Florida, definitely contact my brother from another mother, Dennis Crenshaw.
That's it. What's up, David Blaylock? Sorry, brother. David Blaylock is on with us.
What's
up? You got any more baits that those are baits that you primarily like throwing down in Florida?
Those are baits that, anytime I hit the lake in Florida, I'm always going to have those two baits somewhere in my boat. It may be not on the deck, but they'll both be somewhere in the boat when I'm down in Florida.
Yeah.
Now, get up here, get out of the state of Florida. A lot of the big stuff I usually tend. Now you could still Chickamauga.
Yeah, you can use those
on
on Chickamauga.
You can throw those big baits on Chickamauga. Now, like a nickajack.
Well, you can throw them in certain areas on nickajack. Mainly where we fish on nickajack is on the river part. They really do not. It does not do as well on.
But this here's my go-to bait when I'm on nickajack. Right, I throw this a lot of areas up here, but this is one of our jigs that we tie. All right, but I like to tip it with Brizzer bait McMinnow.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is one of my go-tos. We've over the last I guess year and a half, 2 years, we've caught a lot of fish on nickajack. But that's one of my go-tos.
I like throwing that McMinnow on a drop shot too.
Oh yeah.
Especially when I'm trying to go small on and do more finesse. I like going with that McMinnow.
Yeah. So my go-to on actually, I didn't bring it in, but my go-to on a drop shot is it's called their drop shot worm.
Yeah.
But that's actually one of my go-tos on a drop shot. But yeah, that McMinnow works really well on the drop shot as well.
It sounds like it's a Bruiser Baits commercial. Let's see. Dennis says that he's fixing to go on he's got a trip here in a few minutes, and then he also comments saying Norman is going to teach him how to bass fish here in a few weeks. So he's going to get a chance to get out and see what the Lake Placid master bass fisherman over here is going to do. So
Dennis is going to get a chance to get out on the water with me. Once I get down there, I'll spend a few days kind of getting my feet wet again down there, scouting around the lake, scouting something for my trips that I'll have coming up down there. And Dennis is going to hop on the boat for a couple of days and go out with me, help me locate some fish.
And I'm surprised that you did not have a zero spook up here on the table. Because I guarantee you guys, if you ever out on the boat with Norman, and it doesn't matter the temperature, it could be, if he went ice fishing, he's throwing a zero spook. I have never seen him.
First of all, I don't think I'd be ice fishing.
That's true. But he always has a zero spook on, so I'm surprised that he did not.
I'm always going to have one tied on. Again, that's going to always be somewhere in the boat, too.
Yeah.
Whether I throw it or not.
So let's see. You done 3, I've got 3. I've got a bait. Let's see how. I've only fished down in Florida with Norman, so I guess you say down in Florida, my baits are pretty much the exact same thing. Uh, I what I like. One of my favorite baits is going to be a lipless crankbait. This color here is almost like a gizzard shad color. I really this is not the one that I have been using, but the other one that I've been using because it looks all beat up. Um, I I like throwing it, especially the gizzard shad, especially on Chickamauga with a bunch of gizzard shads. It's I like throwing that, and pretty much I can throw that about 90% of the year. I'll have a lipless crankbait tied on. Um, I like it to one that has that's just the one knocker on it. I like it to have a noise, but I don't um, really like too terribly much of it. Sometimes if I want it to be silent, what I will do is up here at the top, I'll drill a little hole in it and take like the foam. Here's some tips right here. Pretty good tip. If you want to make, because sometimes those fish just want the vibration. They don't want any kind of noise or anything like that. So what I'll do is I'll drill a hole in the top of it, or right here up underneath, above this front hook. Drill a hole, and you know that spray foam that you can do to fill cracks and stuff like that.
You're right.
What I'll do is, and it has a straw, so when I put it in, just fill the thing up with that spray foam. So then what it does is it locks down that the bead that it has in it to make that knocking noise. It knocks it down to where it is now a silent lipless crankbait. Yeah. That's a tip that I've learned. So when it gets cold. Aaron says try the same bait in the oyster color. Works great for him.
Oyster color?
I have not ever thrown an oyster color one, to be honest with you. Here the past couple years I have gotten into throwing swing bait. This is a small one. I like throwing like a 6 to 8 inch swim bait. I got this one because it's easier to show. But as the water temperature drops, I like throwing, let's see if you can tell. Can you see how that is a boot? How up here it looks like a boot, like that. They call it the boot wedge or a wedge tail or whatever. I like throwing the wedge tail because as the water temperature drops, if it's not a wedge tail, I have noticed that this gets harder, or the plastic gets harder. All plastics in cold water is going to get harder. So with it having that wedge tail, it's going to push off more water. So what it's going to do, you can slow crank it and it's still going to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to look like it's a natural fish with the wedge tail. So colder waters, I go with the wedge tail. My baits the bait I have tied up all year round, does not matter. It is my go-to bait is going to be a Texas rig. I can go to any lake. I feel like I can catch fish on a Texas rig. I should have took that color, that plastic off, because that's the color that I have been killing it with. So, but with all my crawls, I always dip them in JJ Magic. So that is my 3 baits that I go to. I do enjoy throwing, if we're on Nickajack on the river part, I do enjoy throwing the jigs that, here's one, the jig that we make when we tie up. So, I do enjoy throwing this. It has proven itself, time and time again to be able to catch fish. We got Michael from Ben Olay Lures. Brother, I seen your post after the fact that I had on the yesterday's live that we done. I hope all is well with your family. We keep praying for your wife. We know everything's going to be good. Dennis says he's going to bring that bait with him. What, Dennis, what bait is he talking about, the jig? Or
I don't know. What bait you talking about, Dennis?
can you tell us what bait you're talking about, Dennis? So, but yeah, if you're looking for some hand-painted baits, you need to go check out Ben Olay Lures on Facebook. I have used a lot of his stuff. I mean, and like the details on it, you're not going to get the details. I mean, you see people that do good stuff. When you have his baits and stuff, it is by far the best hand-painted baits that I have ever used. My favorite is his rats. Yeah. So it is about that time here, probably here in a couple months. Well, I'd say about a month and a half before I start bringing that stuff out. And, but let's see.
I was gonna say I'll tie some of these for you, Dennis, and bring them down to you too.
That's what he's talking about.
I'll bring some of these down to you in a goodie bag.
Yeah, we'll get some tied up, and which actually I got some in the box that we can take, and I'll tie some more. What is the first time, or let's do this. What baits are y'all's favorite baits? And if you leave a comment with us, oh man, I totally missed. Growing on the Farm says, "What's up, Norman?"
What's going on?
He said, "Say hi, Norman."
How you doing?
So that must be one of Norman's on his channel.
Growing on the Farm.
My dad says on there, we've got two different chats going. One's from Facebook and one's because our software only will pick up the comments from YouTube on the laptops, so we're having to watch our phone. I've got it going for the comments, so if you see me kind of looking off, that's what I'm trying to do. My dad says that will that jig catch anything other than bass? My dad is setting you up, Norman. He is setting you up.
Your dad needs to stop.
Yeah.
This jig actually is a pretty damn good drum catcher.
We'll show this. This right here. Let's see. There we go. I'm sorry that it's sideways, but yeah, that was today. One fish that Norman caught today.
Yeah, catching drums pretty good.
So, my dad's just getting him back from the comment that he done yesterday in our other live. While people are telling us what's their favorite baits.
Your dad's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Pretty slick there, Steve.
He tied that one in pretty
Pretty
good.
slick.
Do you remember the first time that you ever went fishing?
Well, man, that's dating way, way back. You know what? I don't physically up here remember, but I have pictures that kind of reminds me of the first time I could actually have any documentation on it. Of course, quick story. 7 years old. It was actually my 7th birthday. Of course, there's a lake in Lake Placid at the end of our road, so we didn't really live on the lake, but you had to walk down to the end of the road, and you had the lake there. There was a homeowner's dock and whole 9 yards. So my 7th birthday was the first time my parents actually allowed me to walk down to the lake by myself, and it was probably about a 3/4 of a mile walk to get down there. It wasn't like it was right next door. So my 7th birthday, they allowed me to walk down and take my rod and reel. And back then, back in the, I guess it would have been, shoot, early mid seven or 74, 75, somewhere down there.
Long time ago.
But there wasn't a lot of the soft plastics that we have today. Basically there's jelly worms. That was the most popular soft plastic back there was jelly worms, called jelly worms. And they didn't have them in the colors you have today. I used to use a purple jelly worm when I was a kid growing up. But anyway, they let me walk down to the lake for the first time, 7 years old, 7th birthday. And my dad always told me if I ever got a big fish on the dock, just walk them around the dock, walk them all the way around, and walk them up on the bank. So, of course, down there by myself, I set the hook on a tank. But anyway, I got the fish in, and the poor fish, too. I drug him up. I mean, the water was down at this time, so there's probably about 30 foot of sand and beach and weeds before you got to the water line. So I drug this fish like 30 feet to where the tree line started, and the backside, the entrance to the docks was where it actually met the grass. And there's 2 cement blocks laying there. And I could probably bet I can't even remember. I mean, back then all I could remember it by is the pictures and all the stories that I've heard for years after that by mom, dad, and all the friends down there that still talked about it every time we all get together. But I took one of the cement blocks, set it on my reel that was laying on the walkway to the dock, right, and the fish was on the bank underneath where the walkway came up. So I took a cement block, set it on top of my rod on the dock. I took another cement block. There was 2 cement blocks laying there. I took another cement block and laid it on top of the fish. And remember, the fish was like 30 foot from the water line. That poor fish. So anyway,
I just thought you was gonna say that you just drug it all over the bank.
No.
Put a cement block.
But yeah, I put a cement block on a poor fish. But anyway, I ran basically on a full sprint from the lake all the way up to the house, and neighbors were running out of their house thinking I was
wrong.
Yeah, thinking I was hurt. I ran all the way up, and I ran in the house, and of course, mom and dad minded it. Of course, I'm just going by pictures to remember. I don't remember anything about it, but I always was told every year all the neighbors would get together. I was told the story thousands of times. Of course, they might have beefed it up for me. I don't know. But anyway, I ran in the house, and I was just crying and doing this with my arms. So rode back down the lake with my dad, and we had to stop at every house on the way back. And, of course, we didn't have scales like we have today, so I stepped on one of our neighbors had a bathroom scale. So I stepped on the scale, weighed myself. They had me step on the scale and weigh myself, and then I stepped off and grabbed the fish. And the fish weighed right at 10 pounds even. In other words, when I stepped on that bathroom scale with the fish, I was 10 pounds heavier. So, but that was the kind of a highlight of my 7-year-old, or my 7th birthday, which I really don't remember. But I have the pictures that remind me of it, and the stories that I've always heard from my parents and all the neighbors used to tell it. There's not many of the neighbors that was around back then are still around today, unfortunately.
Right.
But I used to hear that story all the time.
That is an awesome story. Aaron Vincent said that his favorite bait is a wacky rig and a Ned rig and a buzz bait. I totally agree with that. That is... the time of the year depends on the buzz bait for me. More late spring, early fall is a buzz bait for me that I like throwing it. What's up, Brent Kruger? Thanks for joining.
Yes, sir.
Bruce commented, said, Colin, did you start fishing pre-birth or did you actually wait until you were born? Actually, Bruce, thanks for your comment. Even though I know you're being sarcastic, but I did wait till I was actually born. So um, my mom might have been out fishing. My mom used to fish a lot, uh, but I think from what I've been told, um, I hit the water the first time out in the boat. I was about 4 to 5 months old. So it was not too much longer after um uh, I was born that I was on the water, and I have been on the water ever since. Uh, and that's 39 years. So, but my first experience, or first time that I remember, um, my granddaddy had a boat. We didn't. My dad and I did not have a boat, but my granddaddy had a boat. My dad and I would always go bank fishing, and but the first time that I remember actually going and fishing would have to be probably with my dad and granddaddy. My granddaddy loved to catch bluegill because he mainly just wanted to catch fish to eat them. He did not care how big they were. He says his favorite saying was, "It's bigger than a bean, isn't it?"
Well,
So.
back in the day too, nobody,
So.
nobody back when I was growing up, back in the '70s and '80s, and even into the '90s. I mean, nobody really practiced catch and release like we do today.
No.
Back then it was.
They didn't. Well, they didn't know. They didn't know really how it affects.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't have the knowledge back then of what we have today. As far as catch and release and really supporting a catch and release on the water. But back then it was known as catch and fillet.
Yeah, for real. Fry them things up. So we had a bunch of fish fries, I will say. I remember it wasn't my first trip, but I grew up in Mount Juliet, and so we fished. We pretty much lived right on Old Hickory Lake. So I mean, we were within a mile from Cedar Creek boat ramp. So my granddaddy would always come by, pick me up, pick my dad up, or sometimes I'd just go with him. But I remember one Memorial Day weekend, or the week before Memorial Day. The church that we went to was Tulip Grove Baptist, and it was a pretty big church. It was one of the biggest churches at that time in Nashville, and we had for Memorial Day. They always a group of us always got together and we ate and stuff. There was like 200 of us that was there. Well, the week before, we got onto some fish. We caught like a bunch of bluegill, but main thing is we got onto some catfish, and we caught enough catfish that we went out like a Saturday morning. Went out there, filled. My granddaddy's boat at that time had 2 live wells. We really don't see that much nowadays, but it had a live well in the front, live well in the back. We filled up both live wells full of catfish. Went home, filleted the fish, went back out later that afternoon, filled them back up again. I think we done that. I mean, both that for Saturday and Sunday. We went after church and stuff like that, but we went and caught more fish. And we caught enough fish in that weekend to feed over 200 people with the fish that we caught. So that was one memory that I do. I remember. If my dad's still on, he can kind of comment on that. We got Scott Walker. What's up, brother? How's the weather up in Maryland? So, and Scott said crappie fishing with his dad He filled a 5-gallon bucket and then went home. That's a lot of crappie. We here in Tennessee, we have limits and stuff like that. Like I know on Chickamauga, we can only have 15 a piece. So he said the weather's miserable. So I feel sorry for you. My blood is too thin though to live anywhere north of what we are right now. So, but that was kind of one of my first memories. It wasn't the first time that I remember to go, but it was one of the first things that I remember of actually going fishing and actually kind of producing something for us, because we always went and caught fish and done fish fries. But that fish fry there was a memorable one.
It's awesome.
So, what's your favorite time of the year to catch big fish? Emphasize on big fish.
Big fish? That's pretty simple for me. Down in Florida, typical. Well, yeah. I wasn't going to say that, but typically springtime. You know, the difference between fall time, springtime fishing in Florida and springtime, fall time fishing up here is down in Florida, and you know the spawn actually in Florida is all weather related.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it actually I've seen on our that USA fishing guide list that we've started. It's on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. Become members. It is a great website. If you need a guide anywhere in the United States, it's going to have it there.
Yep.
Pretty much. I'm going to say we've got over 850 members. We have over 120 guides on that page, and we're in 32 states. We might have more. I know I've seen last night. It said that we got some more members. I got to see if they are if they're guides or not.
Yeah.
So let's see. Scott Walker said spring and fall for big Chesapeake Bay striper or striped bass.
Yep.
I understand that.
Oh, yeah.
That is great. I haven't been on a good striper, gone fishing for stripers in a long time. So they're always good fights.
Oh yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, man. But anyway, yeah, the main difference between there and up here is the fish in Florida, and again, it's all weather driven. You know, how quick during the fall does it start? The temperatures start dropping. With the cold front affects them more south than it does here. Yada yada yada. But the fish could actually spawn in Florida for anywhere from October through April. You could get heavy spawn, and again, water temperature has a lot to do with it, and you know how bad the winter is. Sometimes the winter won't be that bad in Florida. Sometimes it'll be a little bit worse, but they could actually spawn anytime between October and April. Just depends on, you know, the weather and what you got temperature wise, the whole 9 yards. Where you come up here, typically the spawn isn't going to start till around April, into May. So you have a lot smaller, and especially like the deep water lakes, a lot of them, especially like June and Placid, they will actually pre-spawn and post-spawn before they move into spawn. They'll move into the edges to the Kissimmee grass to spawn, but they'll pre-spawn and post-spawn in them shell beds right off of a spawning area.
Now, do you do they move up into the reeds and stuff also while doing that, or is it more or less just the grass?
Typically they're going to spawn in what's called the Kissimmee grass. It's almost like if you're from Florida, you know what Kissimmee grass is. You don't have it a lot out of the state of Florida, but it's almost like a wire grass that typically will stick up anywhere from 1.5 feet to sometimes that you get it sticking up 2 foot above the surface. But they'll actually go in and spawn in that. It helps protect them from, you know, it kind of keeps them hidden, covered up a little bit, but they'll go in, move in, and spawn. But they'll pre-spawn and post-spawn out in the shell beds in 15, 20 foot of water right off of those spawning areas. So you could legitimately, you know, catch 25, 30 pound with 5 fish, a pre and post spawn fish, you know, and you'll always have a wave moving in, and then you'll catch a wave moving out to post spawn.
Right.
And what are they doing when they're pre-spawning and post-spawning? They're feeding their bellies because they're hungry.
Yep. And
or they, when before they go into spawn, they pre-spawn. They know they're going to be, you know, not eating for 3 or 4 days, so they fill up, and when they come back out, they're hungry. So it's almost, in some cases when they're out there, it's almost like catching goldfish out of a goldfish bowl if you catch it just right. And that's always easier doing that. I mean, you could actually go in and try to find a picture fish and you know, sight fishing, but I've never really been too much into the sight fishing thing. But you're thinking about
I don't like catching them on the bed because I don't want to disturb that.
Yeah, but think about this too. You go in and you try to find one fish on a bed. It might take you an hour to find that right fish that you want to get pictures of. So it might take you an hour and a half to find her. Then it might take you another hour and a half to actually get her to commit to your bait too.
Yeah.
Once you find them, it doesn't mean it's gonna be ready to. Even if you get it on the sweet spot, it might take you a while to get her to commit and piss her off enough.
Yeah, that's the main thing when you're bed fishing is it's not the fact that they're not wanting to eat it.
Yeah.
They're
wanting to move it off
putting
their
the
bed.
bait in that bed, and all they're doing is just picking it up and just moving it away.
Yeah, right.
So you got to keep on just putting it in there, and eventually they're going to take the whole thing and just that's when.
But I mean, it could take you literally all day to catch 2 fish.
Yeah, it could.
Where you could go out and off where they actually spawn, and you could catch, you know, like I say, you could catch 15, 20, 5, 6 pound pre-spawn and post-spawn, getting either just came out or just moving in, and them fish are hungry. Them fish are wanting to eat. So, I mean, typically that's my favorite time of the year down in Florida is any time between, you know, October through into the spring, because it's, you know, you could actually find them areas where the fish are kind of stacked up and they're hungry when they're actually getting ready to move in or getting ready to move out. But again, it's weather related. Right. You know, if you catch it just right, it can be just off the charts.
Yeah.
And then you move up here, and this is going to be easy for me up here. And I'll say my favorite time of the year to fish up here is any time when the temperature is above 50 degrees.
That's horrible. But
I'm a Florida boy. What can I say? That cold weather I don't like.
The reason why I said about the USA fishing guide and I kind of got sidetracked is because the guides down there they said last week that they are spawning right now down in Florida. So, but also down in Florida, the fish, like here in like the Tennessee area and where we live and stuff, they only spawn once a year. Down in Florida, they could spawn multiple times a year, right?
Yeah.
So, but
there's a bigger window for when they'll spawn in Florida, like I say, and it's all weather related too. That has a big part to play in when they spawn, but they could legitimately spawn all the way from October all the way into April. You know,
to where
so you got a lot bigger window.
Right, from up here, spawn is typically mid-March. Is typically when you want the water temp to be above 60. Once it's above 60, they say is the magic number. I've seen it to where they've started spawning at 57 degrees. I've seen it to where they didn't start spawning until like 62 degrees.
Yeah.
So 60 is around about the magic number for them.
In Florida, the magic number is typically around 68 degrees.
Yeah.
Is the prime water temperature.
So,
68 to 69, right in that realm.
Let's see. Scott Walker said someone told him a long time ago that moon phases is all that matters. I'll let you go down that rabbit hole if you want, or I can kind of say something about it.
Yeah, I mean, it does have something to do with it, but I don't really go by the moon phases too much.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it both ways. So the moon phases don't really affect the spawn like a lot of people think they do, or think it does.
Well, he's not talking about spawn. He's talking about favorite time of the year.
Oh, favorite time of the year?
Yeah. So what I've noticed, really the only time that the moon phase really affects any kind of fishing for us, uh, I don't know about any other place because this is pretty much all I fished in my whole life is in this area in Middle Tennessee. But when it's a full moon, the full moon affects, you will tell a difference when it's a full moon. Um, last night was a full moon.
It'll slow the bite down
But it slows the
during
bite
the morning
down,
hours. They feed on the full moon.
Right, because they're feeding all day.
All night.
And Scott also said usually mid-May till June for the spawn. This year may be early because it's been a pretty warm winter. I could not wait till May or June to have to do some spawn fishing.
Yeah.
But my favorite time of the year to catch big fish is not my favorite time of the year, period. But to catch big fish is going to have to be probably January till beginning of April. Why I say that is because one, the spawn's coming through at the end of that. We typically have like 3 phases of the spawn. You got the pre-spawn, the spawn, and the post-spawn. But that's what a bass will go through. Any bass or any fish will go through that phase, right? But here, and I think down in Florida also, kind of Norman kind of hit on it. Like we'll have typically like at the beginning of our spawn, the bigger fish will spawn first, and so what you see is like they go into the pre-spawn, and you kind of the smaller fish still kind of just lingering around, just kind of doing their thing out deep. And then once they go into spawn, the smaller fish will kind of start going into pre-spawn, and then it kind of rotates, and they just rotate out. Typically, is how that works here in the Tennessee area, and from what I've gathered and talking to Norman, it's pretty much the same thing in Florida, right?
Yeah, pretty much the same.
But prior to them going into pre-spawn or into the spawn, definitely in the pre-spawn, they are getting fat. And they're eating as much because they know that they're about to go into spawn, they're about to do work, they're not about to eat. So they fatten up. So between January and April is my favorite time. Because you will start catching those bigger fish around that time. So, But my favorite time of the year to catch fish is going to be when it's about 95 degrees out, because I know that when it hits in the 90s and 95s and hotter, we are putting the smack down. That's one of the days that we're putting over 100 fish in the boat.
Yeah.
So, got anything else? Let's see. What's up, Matt? Glad to have you on.
What's up, Matt?
So, and again, if you're on Facebook, smash that like and share this video. It helps us to be able to kind of grow this. This is actually the second week that we've done this chat with Norman Lee and Colin Burnett. This is the second time second week that we've done it. This is actually the 3rd episode. We've done a special announcing something Friday about it, but we're going to come on. What's the times that when are we going to do this?
We're going to be on every Monday live on chat with Norman Lee and Colin Burnett at what time? 3-ish.
3-ish. And Scott Walker just posted or done a comment. He says, "I'm a great fisherman. The problem is the fish stink at eating my bait." We've had that.
We've had that problem.
Yep. So
more times than not.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
for sure.
I think everybody has.
So with that being said, one thing that we about forgot to talk. We told everybody that we've got some big news coming up.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Norman, you tell them.
All right, guys.
You tell them since I've been doing all the chit chat.
All right. Tonight we are taping our episode 1 of Deck Talk, our podcast. We're taping tonight. Of course, the podcast is going to be on all the major podcasting platforms, including YouTube and all the social media platforms. But you could actually watch it live tonight as we're taping it.
Yes. And
you want to go ahead and tell them where they could watch it at?
Yeah, that's what I was about to do. Sorry.
We have a bang-up guest tonight, too. I'll let Colin let you know who the guest is going to be, or you just want to save it for tonight?
No, we can go on and tell him.
Go tell him who the guest is going to be. We got a hammer coming on tonight, guys.
And I just put on here the banner. It's Deck Talk on YouTube. So if we can get y'all to go to YouTube and look up Deck Talk, and we don't have any videos on it yet. Tonight is going to be the first video. It's going to be a live. So if we can get you to go on Deck Talk and subscribe. We're trying to get this channel to grow. We're wanting to be able to keep on doing the podcast. We love being able to come and communicate with y'all, chit chat. That's what we're all about. We want y'all to feel like y'all are free to be able to ask us any kind of questions, and we'll answer them. And we want y'all to know that, if y'all see us out somewhere and you want to say hey, come up and say hey. If you see us on the water, we don't care. We love chit-chatting about fish. So, but go to Deck Talk on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and we definitely will appreciate it.
And you'll be able to watch it first tonight as we're taping it. And before it goes out to any other platforms, like I say, eventually it'll be on all the podcasting platforms and all of our other YouTube channels as well. But you'll be able to see it firsthand.
Well, actually,
as we're taping tonight,
the first couple of episodes we're actually doing. We're going to post it on Deck Talk for sure as a live, but then we're also putting it on. Norman Lee Fishing and CMB Bassin 1983. We're going to have all three going live with the podcast because we're trying to draw all of our people from our YouTube and stuff. We might actually have it going live on Facebook. I have not decided yet. So let's see. My dad says that he thinks some of our East Texas friends mentioned that the big girls are on bed now. Yeah, that typically the southern Florida hits spawn first. Mm-hmm. And then once it moves to about central Florida around Norman's neck of the woods, Lake Placid, Lake June area, Orlando area is when Texas starts getting it because it just slowly goes up the country. That's why Scott said that his is May till June with their spawn because it's still freezing up there. And if you don't believe me, just ask Scott. He already told us that the weather's horrible. So, and Aaron said, what time do we say it's going to happen? 6 o'clock, we're going to go live on Deck Talk at 6 p.m. So tell everybody that you know, hey, with this new podcast, especially if you're in the Chattanooga area, tell them, hey, we got a new local podcast going out talking about fishing. And we've got a we've got a local person coming in that is a stud. So we wanted him for our first episode. He's good friends with Norman and myself, and he should be already off. He should be at home right now, getting ready to come over here.
Yeah, he actually had a trip today.
Yeah.
We've seen him a couple times. Well, actually, we didn't see him on the lake.
No,
he was heading
we
away.
thought-
We seen his truck and trailer there at the boat ramp.
So you want to tell him who it is?
Yeah, Josh Antoine, owner of Chattahoochee Fishing Charters. He is a hammer on Nickajack, a hammer on Chickamauga, one of the best going right now. So he is going to be our guest tonight, and he'll be able to give us a lot of insight on different things. So yeah, look forward to that, and make sure. Don't forget 6 o'clock. We'll be going live on the YouTube, and it's actually going to be taping it while we're live on YouTube. We're actually taping it for the podcasting platforms, which will hit the podcasting platforms, a day or two or
it's
somewhat after
it'll
that.
be, and all pretty much you're going to be able to get to hear it first on Deck Talk YouTube. Mm-hmm. Then it's going to get out to the podcast, your Spotify, your Apple Podcast, every bit. It's going to be on every single platform that has a podcast is what we're going to have them on. So we're wanting to see y'all there. We will love, with it being a live, it's going to kind of be like how the chat with Norman Lee and Colin Burnett, to where you can put in info if you have any questions. If you have any questions for us on that podcast, we will answer them. But mainly, if it's a chance for you to be able to ask our guests. So tonight, it's going to be Josh Antoine with Chattahoochee Fishing Charters, and there's no other person that I would, especially going and catching smallmouth bass, there's no other person that I would want to be asking questions about catching some tanks of some smallmouths. We will we'll definitely be picking his brain about that. We got Deanna. How you doing, Deanna?
Hey, Deanna.
So you better keep Bruce straight. I know that's a job, but keep Bruce straight. Scott Walker says y'all better go get a nap so y'all are ready to roll.
Believe me, Scott.
Norman,
I'm running on fumes right now, dude.
Yeah, Norman. I have to give a lot of credit to Norman. Let's see.
I was up at 1:30 this morning, pounding on the keyboard.
Yeah, it looks like the mic. Can y'all still hear us fine? It's still saying. It's just not doing. With that, okay, Scott said we're still good. Okay, because on here it just wasn't showing that it was reading. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Aaron. I don't even know what I seen that it looked like it wasn't working. But we're gonna have him on. We're gonna talk about, pretty much let him kind of go and talk about what he's doing on the water. One thing we will say, if you are local to here, or even if you're not local and you're wanting to come to Nickajack, we will not allow him to give any kind of spots, in which I don't think that he will, but we don't want to even ask him, because that's how he makes his livelihood. We don't want to kind of infringe on that, because we're trying to respect that. So you can ask him anything except for some locations and stuff. You can even if you want to ask him, hey, rip wraps, lay downs, or whatever, but just don't say any kind of pin drops and stuff. So But other than that, we're going to get off here. We've been on here for an hour and 25 minutes.
Looks like we got about an hour, and we got about an hour to start getting ready for tonight. So
Yeah, you
we'll
got
have to
to
start. I'm gonna take me a nap.
You
Let
gotta
you do
take
all
you a
this
quick little
stuff
nap.
down here.
I might go get me a hamburger. So, but again, we want y'all to know that we love y'all. We appreciate what y'all have done, showing up, commenting on here. So if you can hit that like and subscribe button, if you're on YouTube, make sure that if you're on Norman's, go to mine, CMB Basson 1983. Hit that subscribe button there.
Click.
And if you're on mine, make sure you go to Norman Lee Fishing on YouTube. Also, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And we love chit-chatting with y'all. And so we appreciate it. Tight lines, and God bless.
Tight lines, guys.
See ya.